Hello again. I like to keep up to date with what children are reading and so often browse the shelves of the children's section of local libraries. I was this morning at Trapps Hill Library in Loughton, which is an Essex town on the edge of Epping Forest. I came across this strange book. It's called This Book is Anti-Racist, but a more accurate title might perhaps have been This Book is Racist. We've talked here before about the currently popular idea of critical race theory, and this book might be termed, I suppose, a primer for this controversial set of ideas. It is also one of the most dishonest and misleading books which I have ever seen in my life, and puts me strongly in mind of the kind of history, so-called books, which were to be found in both the Soviet Union and the Third Reich. Let's have a look at it and see what it contains. It is incidentally written with both the British and American public in mind, and has been ordered by schools in the United States and also, I'm sorry to say, in Britain. As is so often the case lately when I look at recently published books about racism, I ran into difficulties in the very first sentence, which reads as follows. You will notice I have chosen to use folks, that's F-O-L-X, instead of folks, F-O-L-K-S, because it is a gender-neutral term created by activist communities, and I would like to honour everyone who reads this book. Replacing the KS with an X allows for every reader who has never been seen before to see themselves in here. Okay, I have literally no idea what that means. To begin with, the word folks is not gendered and can be used about men, women, or a mixed bunch of men and women. Let's see what the Oxford Dictionary of English, 1998 edition, revised 2005, has to say. Where are we? Folks. Plural noun. Informal. People in general. Yeah, that's right. That's what I thought. People. How is that gendered? No? And why should I wish to honour my readers when I'm writing? I honestly don't get it. I write a book and people can buy the thing and read it if they wish. It's hardly my business to honour them. Those of you that have read my books, I know some people here have, I certainly didn't set out to honour you when I wrote the book. I wrote the book to provide information. Weird. There's quite a bit of waffly preamble here, couched in that strange jargon so beloved of Americans, a certain talk of American, but I should say beloved of American intellectuals probably. Before we get to page 20, here children get to be taught about white privilege. You see privilege, intersectionality and so on. Yeah, the expression cisgendered, which I dislike, is scattered about pretty freely. There's a lot of stuff about knowing who we are and where we hold agency, which frankly I find a little confusing. I don't actually know what it means to hold agency, but there we are. Next, we find the definition of racism, which the author is using, and it is personal prejudice combined with the systemic abuse of power by institutions. So, to have racism, you must have systemic power. Right, you'll note that this means that black people, or those of Asian origin, are incapable of being racist by this definition. It is literally impossible, because the institutions in Britain and America are run by white people. How cool is that? If you're black in Britain, you can never be a racist. I will remark that I have known personally people of Caribbean origin who use dreadful words to refer to people from Pakistan, say nothing of the Africans whom they despise. It looks like racism, but by clever use of the definition used in this book, they can never be called out on it. Here's what the author says about this. Have patience, my eyes are not as sharp as once they were. Right. Here we are. Being racist against white people is not a thing. Remember, racism is personal prejudice and, in capital letters, the systemic misuse and abuse of power by institutions. So I can have a prejudice against white people, but there is no system which has been put in place for centuries to keep white people oppressed. And there you have it. It's a free card, a get out of jail free card. Black people can be racist as much as they like, or they can be as racially prejudiced as they like, without being racist. If you're a black person, you can hate white people, you can target them for violence if you like, but it can never be racist. I sense that viewers are not going to want to hear every detail of this awful book, so let's look at a few of the lies which it contains. If we look at page 42, I noticed a particularly awful example. Here we are. Let's read what it says here. This is from the section on institutional racism. Healthcare. There is a long history of racism in medicine in the UK/US, from the unethical forced experimentation on enslaved folks to immigrants being denied healthcare due to lack of citizenship. These are lies. The UK is specifically mentioned, but it is not true that immigrants without citizenship are denied healthcare. It's a lie. Teaching children in Britain this nonsense is shocking. Nor have enslaved folks in Britain ever been compulsorily experimented upon. There's much more in the same vein, and all of it is completely false. Then there are the bits which are just loopy. Loopy and completely wrong. Let me look at page 70. Right, talking about the police here. About 1/5 of the Metropolitan Police's 2,000 police officers and staff has an ethnicity bias that impacts their behaviour. Well, first off, there's over 30,000 police officers in the Metropolitan Police Force, not 2,000. Secondly, how on earth does the author know that 1/5 of them have an ethnicity bias which impacts their behaviour? I've hunted high and low for this, and I've rung a few friends up. I can't find anything about this anywhere. I think it's been made up. The title of the book comes from a quotation of all people, Angela Davis, who is frightful. And please have a little patience here. Right. Angela Davis is described here as a scholar, author and political activist. We read that Davis said, "In a racist society, it's not enough to be non-racist, we must be anti-racist," which gives us the title of the book, Anti-Racist. Yes, for those of you who do not remember Angela Davis, and I remember her vividly, seen her speak, I remember the campaign to get her released. She was the Black Power leader who went to East Germany in 1972 and was given a medal by Erich Honecker. That's the man that was tried for manslaughter because of the people killed tried to get across the Berlin Wall after the fall of the wall. The thumbnail to this video shows Angela Davis shaking hands with Erich Honecker. She said while in East Berlin that "we mourn the deaths of the border guards who sacrificed their lives for the protection of their socialist homeland. When we return to the USA, we shall undertake to tell our people the truth about the true function of this border. Yes, that's right. Angela Davis, the anti-racist, was a great fan of both the Berlin Wall and the Stasi. She was also, and is still, an anti-Semite. I was about to mention that she was tried in 1972 for her role in a racist murder, but I suppose that because she's black that would not really be possible. She supplied the guns used in the murder of a white man by 3 black men, so we can perhaps call it a racially motivated murder instead. I've seen a few more books of this kind lately in children's libraries, including one encouraging some sexual stuff. I'll try and do some more reviews of this kind, but in the meantime, those with children at school might like to know that this kind of thing is circulating and encouraging children to accept the ideas of critical race theory as a good way to view race and ethnicity.